All right, guys, with this week's college football slate coming to a close, let's go ahead and look at my next week's top 25. So this isn't the AP poll or anything. This is the AG poll. So this is my poll here. But Miami squeaks out a win here. So let's go ahead and talk about how that's going to shift things around. We did have some upsets today. So there's going to be some movement here. But starting off at number 25, Iowa. Now, 25 through 20, I realize these teams have some losses, but their quality of losses is pretty good. So that's kind of why they benefit and get the benefit of the doubt here and stay in the top 25. But Iowa, they did lose today. Ohio State pretty handily. As usual, that offense is not good, but that defense is really good. Their two losses as of right now are to two undefeated teams, so can't really knock them too much for that. Number 24, South Carolina, similar situation. Their losses are to Ole Miss and LSU. They also have that win over Kentucky, so they're going to hang around in the top 25 for me since they have two good losses. Number 23, Indiana. They stay undefeated here today with a win over Northwestern. Now, they haven't played anybody yet really in Big Ten play that can challenge them. So we'll see, over these next couple weeks, really what they're made of. Number 22, West Virginia, same thing as South Carolina and Iowa. They are undefeated in Big 12 play right now, but they do have two losses, but those losses are not bad. So they've lost to Penn State. They've lost to Pitt. So similar to Iowa, everybody they've lost to has not lost a game. So those are good losses there. Watch out for West Virginia in the Big 12. Number 21, Louisville. They have good losses as well. Lost to Notre Dame last week, and then this week they lose to SMU now, but SMU is actually slowly moving up the rankings as well. Number 20, Nebraska. They only have one loss, and that's to Illinois. Now, they did kind of barely squeak out over Colorado. I don't really know how good Colorado is, but Nebraska, they do play, I think, Indiana next week maybe, so that should be a good one. Number 19, Pitt. They stay undefeated as well. Can they challenge in the ACC? The ACC kind of looks weaker and weaker by the day. So if Pitt can stay undefeated, like I said, they got that win over West Virginia, which I think is a pretty good win. So we'll see how they look. They won the day over North Carolina. Number 18, SMU. Their only loss to an undefeated team as well, to BYU. So SMU slowly creeping back into the rankings. They're another team in the ACC to watch out for. Number 17, Illinois. Their wins, in particular over Nebraska, is their biggest win right now. Their loss is only to Penn State, so they haven't really lost anybody bad. Similar with Indiana, though, I'm curious to see how Illinois looks the more and more we get into Big Ten play. Number 16, A&M, huge win over Missouri today. They had that loss to Notre Dame, but they could easily rise back up in the rankings by just winning out. And really with how their schedule plays out, until they get to Texas, LSU and South Carolina, those are going to be the tough ones, but they have pretty good matchups. Number 15, Kansas State, another player to watch out for in the Big 12. They're going to keep moving up. Their only loss is to BYU. So if they can win out, they'll get their chance at a revenge game. Number 14, Ole Miss. Ole Miss rebounds pretty nicely here today with a good win over South Carolina, I think. Now, they did lose that one last week to Kentucky. So that's not the worst loss ever, but also if you have playoff aspirations, that is not what you want to do. Now, next week, they do have a playoff matchup pretty much. Them and LSU, I think it's almost an elimination game. That's going to be a game to watch out for. Number 13, Tennessee, they get upset this week, so they drop back a little bit. I was not completely shocked they lost to Arkansas. I kind of saw that one coming. I wasn't 100% sure it was going to happen, but, Tennessee hasn't really beaten anybody up to this point, and Arkansas has at least shown they can be competitive, with A&M. So Tennessee, they get the loss here. They drop back, but I still think their offense is talented enough. Number 12, Notre Dame. So they had a bye this week, but they keep rising. They've got that one questionable loss in Northern Illinois, but other than that, they've looked pretty good. So if they can win out, they'll end up making the playoff probably. That's kind of the good news for them with the expanded playoff. Well, I'm not a fan of it because it does eliminate, the purpose of a loss. It doesn't really matter anymore. If you lose a game, you're still going to get in the playoff, but it does make it to where, if you lose again, if you lose two, basically you're kind of on the cutting edge, but Notre Dame's still in prime position to make the playoff. Number 11, BYU. BYU still undefeated. Now, their back half of the Big 12 schedule is loaded, so they're probably going to be undefeated for a little bit here, but we'll see. They do have the win over SMU. It's not a bad win at all. Number 10, Iowa State. They win. They kind of struggled with Baylor today for a little bit. The reason I gave them the edge over BYU is because they did beat Iowa, and I think that win is pretty good. Number 9, LSU. Their big one right now is over USC. USC did drop out of the rankings. They had a loss today to Minnesota, but LSU, they've got a chance to prove what they're made of against Ole Miss this week. Number 8, Clemson. They didn't just absolutely destroy Florida State, but Again, they're only lost to Georgia, which is a pretty good football team, and they kind of played with them for the first half. So I think Clemson, I would say right now, is the best team in the ACC, despite Miami being ranked above them because they were undefeated. Number 7, Georgia. So the reason they dropped a little bit for me here is because I can't put them over Alabama, especially with the way Alabama just slaughtered them in the first quarter. So Georgia at number 7. Now, do I think Alabama and Georgia, if they made the playoff, are better than a lot of the teams above them? Yes, but as of right now, they're at 7. Number 6, Alabama. So this is another team that gets upset this week. A ton of teams got upset. Alabama is one of them. Alabama loses to Vanderbilt here, and this is the difference in a non-Nick Saban coach team. A Nick Saban coach team, this wouldn't have happened. You know, they would have got the win last week over Georgia, would not have got too high off that win, and they still would have rebounded and beat the crap out of Vanderbilt. But Nick Saban's gone, so this is what's going to start happening. And there's a lot of parity right now. Is there just one dominant team in college football? It does not look like it. Number 5, Miami. They barely escape here against Cal in the cross-country matchup. They score at the very end. Now, Miami, this is like a couple weeks now here in a row. They barely squeak one out. I think Clemson is probably better than them, but Miami has that win over Florida. They are undefeated, so they're going to be up here for now. Number 4, Oregon. They are moving up just by not losing. Their real test comes next week, though. They got Ohio State. That's for the battle of the Big Ten, pretty much. You could throw Penn State in there as well. But Oregon, they haven't, like I said, beat anybody to this point. Boise State's probably their most impressive win, but we'll see what they're made of this week against Ohio State. Number 3, Penn State. They keep winning. They've got a win over West Virginia, like I said, a win over Illinois. So they're slowly racking up some top 25 caliber wins here. And I think Penn State is probably the second best team in the Big Ten. I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with that because there's a lot of Oregon fans out there. And I may be wrong, but as of right now, I think Penn State defensively, they play a little different brand of football, so I think they can beat Oregon. Number 2, Ohio State. They continue to move up just from staying undefeated. They haven't played anybody yet, but we're going to find out this week against Oregon. And number 1, Texas, off the bye week. They get Quinn Ewers back this week against Oklahoma. They've got the schedule laid out for them. Oklahoma, Georgia, A&M. If they can run the gauntlet there, they'll stay at number 1. But this is my top 25 for this week. It's probably going to change a little bit next week because, like I said, there's some big games this next week. Even Penn State's playing USC, so that should be a good one. But what do you think of this top 25? Who'd you move up? Who'd you move down? Who would you add to the list? Let me know. Comment down below. Make sure to like this video and subscribe.